Hi everyone, this is Frank DiMora welcoming you to my YouTube site, The Last Chronicles of Planet Earth, and it's here that I connect the dots between Bible prophecy and current events. Let me go straight down to the news because some really important news that shows us that we're on the road to many different prophecies being fulfilled, one of which is Revelation chapter 13 verses 16 through 17. Now, when you go to the scripture there, you'll see this is the warning where Jesus tells us essentially that the Antichrist is going to control the world's economy. How is he going to do it? Well, it's going to be done by a mark that will be placed in your right hand or in your forehead. And unless you have this mark during this tribulation period, you won't be able to buy anything or sell anything. So we know for sure that the economy will be controlled by the Antichrist. Now, we see different events that are taking place that are leading us to the fulfillment of this prophecy. Now, let me show you, for example, go right to it because it says the House Republicans attempt to revive the Real ID. Now, I'm going to give you some information, update what's going on here. So you're going to actually need to understand what went out prior. So let me go right to the article, and you'll see that the back in 2011, what we have on the books is called the Real ID Act of 2005, and this is where President Bush wanted to implement a new driver's license around the United States. Everybody would have to have this driver's license, and without this driver's license, you would be restricted from moving around the country. Now, back in 2011, you'll see it here, it says, if you're resident of one of the at least 24 states, including Arizona, Georgia, and Washington, your driver's license may no longer be valid for boarding an airplane or entering a federal building as of May 11th, 2011. Now I'm going to go to my book here, and I'm going to go to, this is page 40, and this is the newer book that I haven't posted yet because I'm adding the new information, giving you updates to it. So to make it very clear for you, let me just read for you what I wrote in my book as far as this Real ID Act. And hopefully this will lighten it up for you so that you'll understand exactly what's going on. It says the U.S. residents born after December 1st, 1964 will need to have a new Homeland Security approved driver's license by, and here's the date, December 1st, 2014. If they want to use the ID to board an airplane or enter a federal building, and of course this was an article that came out in 2008, as of April of 2012, the government's Real ID Act bill has failed to carry out their plan to ID all Americans. However, there are plans to revive it, and this is the newest update. Now, the WND News explains why the bill hasn't been enforced yet. A coalition of organizations led by officials at the Rutherford University is urging members of Congress not to even consider plans to revive the federal Real ID Act of 2005, which mandated costly and the restrictive nationwide standards for a driver's license database. The plan, although made into law, never has been implemented, and according to John Whitehead of the Rutherford Institute, half of the states adopted resolutions or prohibitions of the federal plan. In other words, they want to stop this from going out, which is a good thing. Now, let me scroll up here so we can see this. Those included Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Georgia. You'll see a whole list of the different names all the way to Tennessee, Virginia, and Washington. And officials said 15 of them actually adopted laws prohibiting the implementation of the act. So they've been working since 2005 to stop the government from issuing and mandating this driver's license. Now, going on, the new coalition includes the American Civil Liberties Union, the American Library Association, Asian Law Caucus, the Constitutional Alliance, and you'll see a whole bunch of different, I'm not going to name them all for time strength, but you'll see all of these organizations who are now coming against this Real ID Act of 2005. It says, when all is said and done, the adoption of a national ID card serves one purpose only: to provide the government with the ultimate control over the American people, he said. Now, the letter addressed to representatives explains that the underlying organization's right today to express our opposition to any effort by Congress or the Department of Homeland Security to force states to comply with the Real ID Act of 2005. So they're really trying to stop this from being revived, but I don't think that they're going to stop it, and I'll tell you why. Although the law gave states 3 years to comply with the restrictive federal licensing standards and create a national database of license information, individual birth certificates, and other personal information, it never has been completed. States' rights organizations say it simply is a rejection on the parts of the states of the federal government's intrusion into their affairs. In other words, many of the states are saying, and fighting against this because they know that it is Big Brother, it is intrusion on our liberties. And of course, this came out March the 31st, 2012. Now, if the U.S., for example, this is what I wrote, if the U.S. is attacked again, as she was on September 11th of 2001, or the U.S. faces a national crisis, the government will make everyone get the new ID license right away, and the states that have rejected this ID won't be able to stop it from being enforced. Either way, governments around the world are making it harder to hide. And then I'll go back in and I'll show you from the ABC News how they came out and said how difficult it is to actually hide from the different the governments. But this is a definite sign, again, that if there was a revival, as that they're trying to do, and I expect that the government will mandate this, especially if there's a national crisis, which with the debt the way it is right now, going on towards $16 trillion, it certainly looks like there would be a national crisis coming up soon, and they're going to have to enforce this this new ID, just like the rest of the countries have been doing, one at a time. So this is really important news. It's something to watch for, and if you don't want your civil liberties to be trodden on, then you should contact your representatives and make sure that they can cause as much trouble for the government as possible legally now. I'm not saying to go out and to fight anybody. I'm saying to go out legally and to get your voice noted as to your objections of this act, this Real ID Act of 2005 that President George Bush enacted. That's been held off for quite a while, which is a good thing, but obviously it's not going to be held off forever because this government is working its way into one system, one national ID, just like the rest of the countries. So let me go back again to my prophecy site and give you some other information about what is going on. You'll see, let me go to this one right here, because this has to do, when you're talking about Big Brother, there's other news relating to other countries. This one says the internet activity to be monitored under new laws. The ministers are preparing a major expansion of the government's powers to monitor the email exchanges and website visits of every person in the UK. it was reported today. So if you're on the internet, you can be monitored, according to this article, by the government. And this is another one of those intrusions by the by another. Let me get to make this a little bit bigger for you. Excuse me here. There you go. You should be able to see that with no problem. It's under legislation expected in next week's Queen's speech. Internet companies will be instructed to install hardware enabling GCHG, the government's electronic listening agency, to examine on demand any phone call made, text message and email sent, and website accessed in real time, the Sunday Times reported. A previous attempt to introduce a similar law was abandoned by the former Labor government in 2006 in the face of fierce opposition. And this is the kind of opposition we are seeing in the United States with this Real ID Act of 2005. However, ministers believe it is essential that the police and the security services have access to such communications data in order to tackle the terrorism and protect the public. And this is another reason why I believe that the Real ID Act is going to be established. Sooner or later, it's going to come, so you might as well get used to it, because they're always using terrorism as an example of why they have to do this. And so it's just another example, if you will, of the countries coming together and as Big Brother, forcing their people to do these things. So, waiting for my, go back here to, there we go. Sometimes the computer runs slow. Alright, there we go. Sorry about that, folks, but nonetheless, you see that that is definitely in the makings. And so what am I trying to say here? I'm just trying to show you that Christ's words are in fact coming to pass. We see these things taking place. The Lord warned us that a system would come. The system would be finally run by the Antichrist. And if you see the different nations, now this is only, by the way, this is only tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg of what we see happening around the many, many different countries. And so if you want to see all of the news about what's happening in each country as far as it comes down to a national ID, a one world system, then you're going to want to read the book. And you can get it at my site today. Click the link right here. When you get to my site, you'll see my site up here. That's where you can get it. Take advantage of it.